Hello and welcome. You are looking at part 2 of my alternate card ideas for the March 2023 Paper Pumpkin Kit 10 Years of Growth. This is a fun fold card, sometimes referred to as a tier card, T-I-E-R, or a step card. It was so much fun to make a perfect fun fold pop-up card layout for our Paper Pumpkin Kit. I actually have a free project sheet that you can download if you are interested in getting the measurements and the instructions and the photos for the cards in today's video. The link is in the description box below. I am actually, today, I'm going to jump right into the measurements from my Facebook Live replay. And then a little bit later in this video, I'm going to have a little chat with you, show you guys how I did the stamped background for these cards if you are looking for additional ideas. But let's go ahead and get into the measurements and the layouts for this fun fold card. We're going to go to the 4 1/4 mark and we're going to cut this in half basically. Okay. And so this first piece is going to become our card base. So I'm going to go to 5 1/2 inches and we're going to score it. Okay. And so we're going to do basically the 4 1/4 by 11 card base scored at 5 1/2. All right. So that's going to be like our flip top open here. And then for this second piece, we're actually going to cut 2 different measurements here. So we're going to leave it at 4 1/4. Okay. So you want it to be the length of the card. And then we're going to cut the first one to 4 inches. So it will basically become 4 by 4 1/4 inches. And then we're going to cut our next piece at 3 1/2 inches. Okay, so this will be 3 1/2 by 4 1/4 inches. And I'm going to set my little extra piece off to the side, and we might use that for something later. Okay, and now we're going to do some measuring. So these are going to be our 2 pop-up mechanisms here. I'm going to focus on the lower one first. Okay, so for the 4 by 4 1/4 inch, we're going to score 4 times. We're going to score at 1/2 inch, 1 1/2 inches, 2 1/2 inches, and I believe 3 1/2 inches. So let's do that together. Just make sure that that's right. So we're going to go to the 1/2 inch. Okay, we'll score there. We're going to go to 1 1/2 inches. Be sure that you get your little cutter out of the way. We're going to use the lighter gray, which is our scoring tool. So this is all scoring right now. So at 1 1/2 inches, we're going to score again. And then we're going to go to 2 1/2. And then 3 1/2, which should leave us a 1/2 inch panel once it's scored here on the edge. Okay. And I'm just making sure that I scored that in the right direction. So you want the lines to be horizontal on the 4 1/4 side. Okay. So these, I'm just going to warm these up just to kind of show you here. This is going to become the lower pop-up piece. So this piece right here. Okay, so that's going to be that first piece that we're going to glue in. So we'll just set that to the side for a minute. And then for our second round, I'm just using this for reference. Okay, so now we have our 3 1/2 inch side here. And we are going to score. Okay, we're going to score at 1/2 inch, 1 inches, 2 1/2 inches, and 3. So let me just make sure that's right, because sometimes when I'm writing things down, you know how that goes. But I'll know it as soon as I see it. I don't know why numbers don't translate in my head sometimes. Okay. You know, you go, and I've cut, I can't even tell you how many of these card bases I've cut. So, all right. Now, this piece here, so we're going to go to the 2 1/2 inch mark. Okay. So basically, from this score line to where we're going to score, we want it to be 1 1/2 inches. Okay. So we're going to score at this 2 1/2 inch mark. That's how we know that that's right. And then for our last one, we're going to go to 3 inches. So that is correct. Okay. All right. And then this becomes the upper panel. And that looks like this. So once we put our pieces together here, we have our pop-up. So we're just going to glue these pieces in, but that's basically the concept of this pop-up card. And if you are doing a color card base like I am, and you want to have a white insert on the inside, you could either trim basic white to 4 by 5 1/4 for your inside panel. I recommend using the back of the paper pumpkin cards that we're going to be cutting up, just so that you can utilize the pieces. But it's totally up to you. So I wanted to shout that out too while we're talking measurements. Okay. And I'm going to cut up the card base in a minute so that we can create basically what we're doing. Because there's no designer series paper in a paper pumpkin kit, we're turning our card bases and our envelope flaps into designer series paper. And then we're going to create our own with those stamps. So I'm going to warm up my score lines here. And I'm going to just kind of burnish them all just so that I know I have a good, clean, crisp edge here. It just makes it easier when we're working with it. Okay, did I get them all? I think I didn't get this one. All right, I'm sorry that my my surface is such a mess. I really need to clean that. Got to get a better mat down. Okay, so there goes the one, and then let's get our second one. Okay, let me know in the comments if you guys like making fun folds or pop-up cards. I'm not sure if this is something that people do with paper pumpkin. I love doing things like this once we start getting into alternates. I think it's really a lot of fun. But it's a simpler one, and it's one where you can really use just about all of the pieces from the kits with it too, which I also really like. Okay. I really do try to do, I would say 90% of the time, projects that I do not personally think are intimidating. Okay, Lisa's saying she loves making fun folds. That's awesome, Lisa. Okay, so what we're going to do is these 1/2 inch edges are where we're going to be putting our adhesive, and then we do have one extra step of adhesive on this one, which I'll show you. But we're going to start with this edge, and we're going to want to line it up with the bottom. So where it folds, okay, is where we want to glue this down. Now, I'm going to be using tear and tape, but you could use whatever your favorite adhesive is. I would just recommend using an adhesive you know is going to stick, because it's, you know, a fun fold element on your card. So for me personally, I would use tear and tape or Seal Plus for that. But you can use your multi-purpose glue too if you want to. It's just a little bit messier. You just kind of have to hold it for a minute until it, you know, until it sets. And especially when I'm live, I use multi-purpose a lot, but on fun folds, oh my gosh, I would have it all over me. It can be done, but be a mess. All right, so we have this piece here. I just want to make sure that my adhesive is within this 1/2 inch. I don't want it, you know, sticking anywhere it shouldn't. And then we're just going to line this up with the bottom with our card base. I'm going to try to keep that as straight as I can. I feel like the first one is the trickiest one, just for me personally. Okay, and so here, what we're going to do is we're going to put adhesive on this other 1/2 inch panel here. And what we're going to do is we're going to fold it in so that when we press it against here, these two are actually lining right up. So this one, this 1/2 inch one that we just put down, we want this one to line up right along next to it. So I have it folded the second, like 1, 2 panels in, and then I'm holding it flat, and I'm going to press it down. Okay. And then you might want to just get your bone folder or just give it an extra press. And that's our first piece right there. Okay. And then let's do our second one. So for our second one, we have 2 half-inch panels. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to put adhesive on both of these because we're going to adhere it not only to the base, but we're going to adhere it to this fun fold piece as well. So we're going to adhere it to the second pop-up and then also to the base. So I'm going to do 2 strips right here. Okay. I should probably be measuring these out, but it's very easy to fold, tear, and tape in if you get it on the edge there like that. Okay, so I haven't talked about the April kit at all, and I usually do that in the beginning of my video, but just a shout out that if you're interested in getting the April Paper Pumpkin Kit, which I'll show you guys the flyer in a little bit, you want to make sure you're subscribed by April 10th. And it looks gorgeous and super springy. But the most exciting part of the kit for me is that they're going to have an organizer in it, which I cannot wait to see that. Okay, so you can see we have the adhesive on both of these. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to fold this in like this. So it is a little bit tricky, but I'm just going to try to get this V right up against where it's glued there. So I'm just going to try to line that up. Nice and easy and straight. Okay. And let's see how we are doing. I think we're doing okay. All right, and then I'm just gonna press right here too so you can kind of see how that's glued almost like an L there. All right, and then we're gonna put one more strip of adhesive here. Oops, the back one, the last one. Okay. There we go. And usually if I have a little extra on the end there, I just fold it in. All right. And so what we're going to do here, and I think the easiest way to do this is fold up the entire panel. So you're going to fold up the whole panel. You're going to fold this piece down. So these 2 half-inch pieces, you're going to fold this one down. You're going to push the whole thing up, even including the bottom panel. And then we're going to press. And we're going to glue. So that when we pull this back up again, we have that mechanism. Okay. You can, you can eyeball it without folding the whole thing. The problem is if it's crooked, it's not going to properly fold in and out for you. So I do recommend just pushing the whole panel flat and adhering it that way. And then if you want to get your bone folder and just make sure it's glued, you can do that too. But you can see that pops up nice and easy. Okay. So that is the concept for cutting every single card that we basically made for today's live. So they're all this pop-up. It's just we're decorating them in different ways using our different pieces from the kit. So for this one, let's do the window for this one. So let me get my window card. Isn't that funny? It's like you tell yourself window and you pull out the bookshelf. Is this the cutest? I hope to see more like this. I love seeing cards. So I hope to see more of that with Paper Pumpkin. I think that's so adorable. Okay, so now we're going to kind of cut this up a little bit. So now I'm going to give you DSP measurements. Now, the reason that I want to say designer series paper to you is because if you do this with any of your regular stuff outside of a Paper Pumpkin kit, typically we would use our designer series paper, right? But this is going to replace that. So I'm still going to call it designer series paper, but just know, I mean, for the sake of our Paper Pumpkin kit, our card base. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to cut this in half. All right. So I'm going to cut this down first. We're going to set this piece aside. And now I'm going to cut this down to 4 by 5 1/4. And I'm going to make this the inside panel of my fun fold. So I'll glue that in later, but I just wanted to cut that while we are here. Okay, and now we need to trim this down to size. Here you can see the window, we kind of trimmed off this white at the top, and that was because I wanted to show as much of the window as I could. So what we're gonna do is we're just, and I'm not measuring, this is just me eyeballing here. So all I know is I do not want to see any of my window in this hole right here where that blade would cut. So I know that that's a little too high. So I'm going to just scoot that down just a little bit. I just want to get as close as I can without being like, you know, really bad. So let me just pull it right there. All right. And so you can see when we're under that ridge, we get that nice close cut. So the other part of this is, because we're trimming a card base, right now its measurement is at 4 1/4, and we actually want to trim this down so that it's at 4 1/8, just so that we can get a nice little border here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the 4 1/4 inch mark, and we're just going to bump it down 1/16 of an inch. So it's not going to be cutting much, but I just want to try to keep it even sides here. And now I'm going to go to the 4 1/8 mark, and I'm going to trim on that side. So we should have 4 1/8. I just changed my blade, and it's like really cutting into I should get my little sandpaper thingy, but it's fine. Okay. And now the other thing that we need to do, so I'll get you these measurements too. This top panel is 2 7/8 by 4 1/8. So now that we've trimmed it to 4 1/8, we're going to find that 2 7/8 mark, and we're going to cut. Okay, and so that's going to become our first panel here. And that should, I hope, I might need to trim just a little bit more off of the top. Like, it's super close. I mean, it's okay, but it's super close. And then now I'm going to turn this around so that we're on the other side here. And you can see, again, I trimmed right underneath that frame. So this is up to you, but I'm just going to cut some of this extra white out. And this is just so that we can keep as much of the window detail as possible. Okay, so we're going to trim that. Now I'm going to flip it this way because this is the part that I really want to see. And this piece here is 1 3/8 inch by 4 1/8. So we're going to go to 1 3/8. And then this little extra piece, I'm just going to set aside. And so that should give us our second piece right here for our window. All right, and I am, if you guys don't mind, I'm going to trim just a hair off so that I can try to keep the measurement as close as possible here. So let's see. Let me do it from the top. All right, and then let's see how this looks. Yeah, that looks much better to me. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to trim up an envelope. I'm just digging around the box here. Okay, so here is our, hi Roxanne, good morning. Oh, and I'm seeing another comment. Anne says they are so beautiful and fun. Thank you so much, Anne. I'm so glad you like them. So like I was saying in the first alternates video, typically we have a lot of this pattern to work with. Like, it's usually lining the whole inside of the envelope, but that's not the case. So I was conservative in the way that I used it on my cards this time around because we have this limited section. And somebody had actually asked me if I could try to recreate this, and I haven't tried yet, but if I can figure it out, maybe I can do it as like a short video or something. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to trim off this edge, and then we can start getting, you know, more specific with our cut. So I just want to get this top panel off. We're just going to use that envelope for something else later. All right. And then now I'm going to try to get a little bit more specific with my cutting. So I'm going to try to keep as much of this part as possible because we want to try to use as much of this as we can. So we're going to trim that off first. And then the next thing that I've been doing, this is just for me, is I've been trying to get rid of the angle. So I just kind of take it to right where it would become a straight line and cut. So it might not be a perfect measurement, but what I can do is line it up along this horizontal line here to try to keep it straight. And we'll cut. Okay, and then I'm going to do that same thing on the other side. So I'll just use this straight line here. And I'm trying to make sure that that curved edge is hitting right here where we cut. So you can see I'm hitting it at about 5 inches right now. I can see I'm a little crooked. Okay. There we go. All right. So for this panel here, this bottom panel, we need 7/8 of an inch by 4 1/8. But I also want to conserve as much of this as I can because we're going to use it to die cut these little things for future plants that we're going to use in our card. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get that 7/8 inch. So I'm just going to cut right here. And then just depending on what you want your color, you know, this lower part is where all of that fun color is. So just depending on what you want to capture, like I definitely want to have accents of the fresh freesia here. So I might trim off this piece here. So the next thing we're going to do is trim it to 4 1/8. And this little square that's left will actually die cut. If you are using cottage wreaths or if you're using a small die cut, it will cut. So save it. I know that sounds crazy, but we're going to save it and use it because we got to use as much as we can of this. And then this leftover panel here, I'm actually going to use to cut up pieces to turn into plants. So I'm just going to set that aside. Okay. But at least for this part of it, we have our panels. Okay, so just to go over those measurements one more time, this one is 2 7/8 by 4 1/8. This is 1 3/8 by 4 1/8. And this one is 7/8 by 4 1/8. And then once we have these pieces, you can basically decorate your card however you want. And what I had decided to do was just keep at least the Mother's Day card. I thought I'm just going to keep this really simple. I'm going to keep it clean. I'm going to keep it simple. So let's glue these panels down and then we'll go ahead and we'll decorate. And I am going to keep that simple theme just in terms of recreating that here. So we'll glue this down and I'll go back through comments here in a couple minutes. Now I did use the metallic, I think it's called metallic woven ribbon in Orchid Oasis on that potted plant on our sample card there. So just want to shout that out. And I will add the list of the alternate products that I add in to these cards. That'll be on my project sheet tomorrow. I have to work on that overnight. So I'm trying to make arrangements to have somebody here so I can do my live on Thursday evening. So I'll keep you guys posted about that. We have a little bit of a scheduling conflict, but I'm going to do my best to go live if I can. Okay, so here we go. And you can see it's pretty seamless with our window panel. I think it turned out really good. And then here we can put this down. I can't tell you how much I love these kits. Month after month, I just think it's one of the most creative things that you could get. And whether or not you're doing exactly what the Paper Pumpkin team designed, or if you are, you know, changing it up a little bit and turning it into an alternate, either way, they are so much fun to work with. Okay, so in terms of kit pieces for decorating this card, one thing about this month's Paper Pumpkin kit is, and I don't know if you guys noticed, there's no embellishment, meaning there's no gems or rhinestones or, you know, what have you. So I thought, can I not add rhinestones? Because I really like to. So I challenged myself to kind of not add rhinestones to these fun folds. But you could do this however you want. Here is the original Paper Pumpkin card, and here is ours. Okay. And we are going to use some of the die cut pieces here. So what we're going to do is we're going to get our purple die cut planter from the kit, pot, whatever you guys want to say. And then I'm just going to use this fancy purpley one. I think this one is so beautiful. So we're going to use this piece. Okay. And then we're also going to use one of these banners from the kit. Okay, so this larger banner. And then I'm just going to set these right here because I'm going to need these in a minute for the other card. Okay. And you can add that ribbon if you want to your plant. Yes, it's right here. Right before I go live, I start cleaning up my workstation and then I remove things that I need. Okay, so we're going to put these down. So the thing that I recommend is, you know, find your placement. Oh, I'm using the smaller one. Was I supposed to use the big pink one? Let's use the big pink one. Here we go. Okay, so we'll use this one instead. All right. And I just lined my metallic ribbon up between the gold, and then I put a bow on separately. So let's do that. I could just use my tear and tape, but let me see if I can. The one thing I want to say about this is you need to be strategic about where your glue is going, depending on where it's sitting on your fun fold. So again, you want to make sure that that glue doesn't leave the panel. So you don't want to go over the panel front, because if you fold it down in the card, it will stick to this layer. So make sure you either keep it here or here. Don't have any glue up here or here. Okay. Just depending on where that's sitting. So we're just going to pop this right in like that. So cute. Okay. And then let's go ahead and do our ribbon. So I'm just going to trim off a little piece here. It doesn't have to be big. And same thing as when I'm doing my layers, I just kind of pop it into the glue on the back. Okay, I love this ribbon. I think that this is the embellishment, because it's adding that sparkle that I'm not getting with the embellishment that I would typically put on. It's so fancy and it's small and it's thin, you know, it's not bulky. So I really, really like that about this. And now I'm just going to tie a bow. Windowsill. Okay, and then we're going to use Orchid Oasis ink to stamp our sentiment. All right, now because I did mother on this one, I'm going to do a different one just for the sake of the live. We'll just get as many occasions in as we can manage. So let me grab the Sending Love. Okay, and then I just have to clean this off. Hi, Sherry. Roxanne says, I'm loving this. Oh, good. I'm so glad. That's awesome. I love hearing that. I love when you love the alternates. Okay. Here we go. So we're just going to do Orchid Oasis, Sending All Our Love. And same thing, we're just going to pop that right onto the bottom panel. And you could do your placement wherever you're comfortable. This, I will say, does a little, can you see how it almost very slightly overlaps? So this one I trimmed down just a hair, but I think it's fine. I'm just going to focus my adhesive in the center, just so that I don't have any panels sticking anywhere it shouldn't. Okay. All right, I just don't want to put my finger right on the ink. And so that is our first card. And then of course you would glue that inside panel. I'm just going to tuck mine in so that we can move on to the next card. But that is basically what we would do. And then you could do the inside sentiment as well. So there's the first card. Okay. And then I'm just going to set these two aside. And for our next card, we're actually going to do something really similar. So we're going to trim our bookcase down exactly the same way as we did with our window. And we're just going to cut a very small panel of that bookcase out to try to make it look continuous as well. Okay, so we are jumping into voiceover mode now. I'm also going to start speeding up the video now. So if you want to see the full length replay, you can see that on my Facebook page, Stamping with Hart. I keep the full length replays there. And then typically I edit down the replay to the tutorial only. But I did add a couple of sections to this video of me. I pre-recorded myself filming the stamped backgrounds. So that is exclusively on this video and not on the replay. The other thing that I want to mention is that I have a free project sheet for these cards. And you can actually click the link to download that project sheet in the description box below. I will also have a link to the project sheet on my blog. If you do not want to download the project sheet, I will have the measurements on my blog as well, but having the PDF is certainly helpful. So I do recommend that. And I know that so many of you who enjoy the alternate ideas for Paper Pumpkin like I do have really been loving the project sheets that I've been providing. So I love hearing your feedback on that. I love hearing that you like the alternate projects. So anytime that you like a video like this, anytime that you comment on it, share it, anytime that you subscribe to my YouTube channel, that is telling YouTube and me that you like seeing videos like this and that you want to see more. So it's actually really important to get that interaction from you, and I just appreciate it so much. So here you can see that the layout for this card is almost identical to the other one, where we're trying to preserve that bookcase. We trimmed it down to the same exact measurements, and I just cut out basically one shelf of the bookcase. So literally exactly what we did with the window is the same thing that you're going to do with this card. The changes that I made here is I stamped this pot from the bonus stamp set. I'm coloring it with the polished pink combo. I kind of wanted one of those two-tone pots, you know, so I'm just coloring a little bit of the dark version of polished pink and then fussy cutting this out. I did do some fussy cutting on these cards. So it's a combination of die cut pieces from the kit like I'm showing you right here, and then also a combination of me stamping and then hand coloring and fussy cutting the stamped images from the stamp set. And I had done the lilies ahead of time so that I could, you know, save on time with the demonstration here. But you get the idea. So whether you're doing a die cut plant that's just like a leafy plant, or whether you're doing a beautiful bouquet, or you know, like we have here, the lilies in the pot, just whatever your preference, or you want some mix of that, you have the freedom to do that. Now, these little die cut pieces that you are seeing right here, this is actually from something called the Country Wreath dies. And don't feel like you have to have the same exact dies that I do. If you have any kind of garden or leafy, you know, branch or plant dies that will cut anything out like that, just get out whatever dies you have if you want to extend the life of your kit. And I literally cut these pieces from that envelope flap. So what I'm trying to do is keep the concept of the Paper Pumpkin kit, but by using my own dies. So when I run out of those consumable pieces, I can use these with that envelope flap. And that's exactly what I did. I ended up using 5 of these little branches to create this little potted plant with the small die cut pot from the kit. And that's the little embossed one. And then I kind of popped it up on the shelf there. So just depending on what you want to do. we're going to stamp You Deserve the Best in polished pink. That was like, I think that's my favorite sentiment from all of the stamps in this set. And if you didn't know, there are actually 17 stamps in the March Paper Pumpkin Kit. I mean, that is incredible. So I really wanted to utilize those stamps and give you ideas, all of the different ways that you could possibly use those. But I also wanted to give you, ways to use these things in a way that you felt like, you could step outside of the Paper Pumpkin Kit, but you're still preserving so much of the original artwork. So many of you reached out and said that you absolutely love this kit. Like you told me in the comments in the first alternate video, you were commenting when I did the unboxing on my live. So I love hearing that. I love hearing all of your comments, what you think of the cards, if you're making your kits. So keep those comments coming. And I do alternate videos for Paper Pumpkin every month. So if you aren't already subscribed, I do encourage you to subscribe. So here is just a sped up version of me creating a stamped background. Now this came out of, I create these little charts of all the coordinating colors and things like that when I'm getting ready to do alternate videos for you. And I had done this stamp in all of the colors in a row, and I thought, I want to do a background like that. And so that's basically what happened. So I did Polished Pink was the first row, Crumb Cake was the second row, Fresh Freesia was the third row. I think it's Orchid Oasis next, Coastal Cabana, and then Shaded Spruce. And I have Garden Green in there somewhere too. Oh, there is Orchid Oasis, so that must be Garden Green that I was thinking before. So just in terms of that order, once I did that once, I went through and did it a second time. And I believe that that panel is cut to 4 by 5 1/4. So it's either 4 by 5 1/4 or 4 1/8 by 5 1/4. Either way, we're going to cut this panel down into the 3 pieces that are going to fit onto the front of our card. So it'll be cut down to 2 7/8, 1 3/8 inch, and then 7/8 of an inch. And that is going to become essentially our designer series paper. We made it ourselves with the kit for one of our fun fold cards. So if you're not like a major floral person and you really do prefer lines or patterns or polka dots or things like that, I think this is you could have a lot of fun with this. I'm using all of the coordinating colors, but you could do this a whole panel with just one color, 2 colors, and alternate them, whatever you think. Now here is the other stamped background that I did. This is the masking paper from Stampin' Up. I'm going to stamp happy on here. It's not centered or anything like that. I just needed the measurement of the happy so that I could cut out the masking tape to the size that I needed to create my panel. So it turns out that I cut it at about 1 3/4 inches. And then I just left it a long strip. I knew it was going to kind of come off of the edges of my layer, but I thought that's fine. I'll just secure it down. The thing with the masking paper, if you are using a large piece like this here, this is something that I would consider a large piece of masking paper and not just a small piece. You want to get some of the tackiness off of it so that you don't rip your basic white cardstock, okay? And particularly if you're using like the other side of a card from the kit that's a little bit thinner than the basic white cardstock. You really want to make sure that you remove some of that tackiness first before you do this technique. And then when you put that masking paper down, it's going to keep that area that is covered with the masking paper completely clean. And we're just going to create a stamped pattern around it. Now on the original card that you see to the left, I had actually done a little bit of shading with my small blending brush before I removed the masking paper. But I forgot to do that when I was stamping this version. And I ended up kind of going back in and doing it after the fact. Now, the reason that I want to mention this to you was because I had a much better guide of a straight line when I had that little bit of shading with my small blending brush than when I didn't have it. And I ended up getting a little bit crooked on my sample for you guys. So that is just something that I wanted to mention. So you can see that this big leafy plant stamp, it is large. So I wanted to do that in the darker color, the Shaded Spruce, and then the smaller kind of leafy branch I did in garden green. So we have that combination of greens. I'm stamping happy in shaded spruce. I'll end up putting in the second half of that sentiment later on one of those little die cut pieces, but I just wanted to show you how I created this. So after I stamped that in shaded spruce, I came back in with my shaded spruce dark Stampin' Blend, and I started coloring in the leaves. I kind of did this throughout all of my projects with this particular stamp because I really loved the look of it. I was either using Bermuda Bay, shaded spruce, or some combination of the two, and I loved the way that it looked between the plants and these backgrounds. And then I wanted to kind of define this line here. I like kind of frames and edges and borders, so I just drew a line with my my Stampin' Blend and my ruler. But you'll see I was just a hair crooked, and if I would have done that blending brush when that masking paper was still set down, I would have had a perfectly straight line. So that's just something that I wanted to mention to you guys. Now, I'm not going to finish this whole panel because I already have the finished card there off to the left. I just wanted you to see how I had created and made this particular background. So if that is something that you would like to create, you could do that too. Now, I often get the question, do you have to use the masking paper? No, you can use, a piece of scrap paper. You could use whatever you want as long as you could kind of secure it down and it won't move while you're doing the stamping technique. But I do recommend the masking paper. And on that project sheet and on my blog, I will have a full list of the alternate products that I used for these cards. And it's mostly the paper pumpkin kit, and the refills for the March kit are still available. And there you go. There's that soft look with that small blending brush. I absolutely love that. But yeah, so right here, we're going to recap this. And before I end this video, because I'm just going to kind of show you the finished card projects here. But before I end this video, I wanted to mention the April Paper Pumpkin Kit. So every month, this is a crafting subscription box, typically card making boxes each month. Sometimes it's something different, but typically cards. And you would need to be subscribed by April 10th. If you do not already have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I would love to work with you. If you are interested in subscribing to Paper Pumpkin with me, then there is a link in the subscription box, or in the description box below, I should say, where you can sign up for Paper Pumpkin. You can sign up monthly, and then we also have prepaid options as well. And I'm running a special just for myself, a special for my Paper Pumpkin customers, new, current, past customers, just in the month of March, where if you order a 3 or 6 month prepaid subscription with me, I will send you one of my past Paper Pumpkin kits for free. And that ends on March 31st, and you have to use the March host code when you order that online in order to get that offer. So if you have questions about that, you can let me know. So here, I'm just kind of pointing out these pieces that I used from the kit. That polka dot background is from one of the cards from the kit. That laser cut happy, that gold foil happy die cut, that's from the kit. The pot, and then a combination of die cutting and a stamped image to create that plant in front. I stamped "To Call You Friend" on the Orchid Oasis cardstock, and I actually heat embossed that in white, which is from our Basics collection. And then we have that smaller pot there. And then you can see the window card and the bookcase card that we had already made. If you want to keep it simpler, I would refer to the one that we just hand stamped that says "Happy Birthday," the green combination card we just made, because that one actually doesn't have a bunch of layers and all of that. It's really just the background. And then we just have that little birthday piece. That die cut is the only die cut that's on that particular card. So it goes from simpler to a little bit fancier there. And then we have some combination of that on the polka dot pattern stamp that we just did in all of the different coordinating colors on that last card there. So here again, I'm just reminding you guys about those cottage wreath dies. That was what I had used to create those little potted plants. These are what the dies look like right here from Cottage Wreaths. I also put a die cut bow in pink on one of the plants, and that's actually also from the Country Wreath dies, just in case you were wondering. So just something that I wanted to shout out. But we really got to utilize a lot of our product from the kit this month. I'm really thrilled with the way that these turned out. I thought this was the perfect fun fold for this kit. I did try to preserve kind of those clean lines and that plant theme that the Paper Pumpkin designers had originally created. I did not use embellishments aside from that metallic ribbon, the woven metallic ribbon on that one plant. So I didn't use any rhinestones or things like that. Now you certainly could, but I was really trying to keep those clean lines. So like I said, leave me a comment. Let me know what you think of these alternate cards. Have you started making your card kits yet? Here's that little chart that I was referring to where I got that idea. I have that in my first alternates video too, if you wanted to check that out. But yes, I would love to hear from you. If you're not already subscribed to Paper Pumpkin, make sure you're subscribed by April 10th. And yeah, I will see you guys again with the next video. And just before I go, I forgot to mention this To an Incredible Woman is die cut with the Something Fancy dies up in the top there. That's our Coastal Cabana card base. And I actually colored that plant that you're seeing there. I fussy cut those out after I colored them with Stampin' Blends. It was a combination of Bermuda Bay and Shaded Spruce, and then the pot was actually colored with the Pool Party blends, and then I did that polished pink die cut bow from the Cottage Wreath dies. So I think that covers all of the pieces that I used. Make sure you download that project sheet, and I will see you guys in the next video.